Hi, I'm Greg Uland with Reynolds & Reynolds, and this is Connected, and this is a very special episode of Connected, number 200, and it's even more special because I get to sit down with the legendary Jeff Swickard. Jeff's the dealer principal at Swickard Automotive Group. Jeff, thanks so much for taking time to sit down and talk with me.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a ton of things I want to get into, Jeff, and I want to pick your brain on a lot of things. But just to set the table, I feel like most people in the industry know who you are at this point. You're not shy. You talk when asked to talk. But you've been a really fast riser. I mean, you've went from, I think, and you can fill in the blanks here, but I think you started in 2014, but really from 2020, 2021, you went from one or two stores to 50. So it's been a pretty meteoric rise from a volume perspective, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down and talk with me.
No, it's great to be here. Yeah, thank you.
So, Jeff, why don't we start by diving in? Because I heard you on a couple different places, I think around NADA, talking about artificial intelligence and the work that you all have done. And I do think that you are in a unique position with the number of stores that you have and the volume of customer information that you have and the volume of operational information that you have. So you're in a bit of a unique position to really operationalize and take action on all that information. But wanted to just dive in with artificial intelligence, kind of what you're doing today. And I've heard you talk about the work that you've put in to really structure the data before building tools on top of it. So would you mind maybe starting there and share what you're doing in that world?
Absolutely. So about a year and a half ago, we just decided that we wanted kind of our own kind of enterprise data warehouse. So we established over the last year and a half this warehouse of information, this unified data layer that we can actually use in just a variety of ways. But for like the first time since I've been in the business, we can actually see everything clearly. And that's incredibly exciting, right? And so it feels like it doesn't just make us smarter, it makes it better for our teams, makes it better for our customers. It gives us the ability to operate with intention rather than, guessing. So we use our enterprise data warehouse. I mean, we obviously partnered with Reynolds & Reynolds and have AI data hooks into the DMS and associated systems. And we take that information and then we use it, we customize it and use it in ways that are, interesting for our business. And so, we're doing everything from agentic AI, using the enterprise data warehouse to to get information about our customers, so we can respond quickly, and we can do things in ways that we weren't able to do in the past. So it's enabling us to actually just see. It just adds a degree of clarity that wasn't there, that was there before, because you're able to look at all the different data sets and data sources in one kind of. One place for kind of your one moment of truth, I guess.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing maybe a few or a couple at least examples, like real world use cases of how you're leveraging artificial intelligence or some of these tools out there? I think that's one of the blind spots for a lot of folks is you hear AI, you hear artificial intelligence, and it's this genericized term at this point where you say, well, I guess it does everything. But at the end of the day, you have to be solving a problem, right? And sometimes we know what the problem is, sometimes we don't. But how are you finding good, solid, tangible results by utilizing artificial intelligence tools?
I mean, it is a complicated topic because I think that now, every software provider has renamed themselves something AI, right? And so, what used to be like an IVR is now AI, and what used to be a simple report is now AI. And so, it is challenging to sometimes separate the conversation around what is truly what we would consider artificial intelligence and what others might consider just an upgrade in technology, workflows, or technology that maybe existed before but now is branded AI. So some of the things that we look at in terms of AI is how do we From my perspective, it's like one of the most exciting times I've ever seen in business, right? Because the pace is super fast, but that's also kind of where the opportunity is. And so a good example of AI would be, most of our general managers, most of our management uses corporate credit cards. This is an easy kind of layup example. And we had to either just trust that what was put on the card was legitimate business purposes or within the budgetary amounts that we set for them, or manually audit them. So we taught an AI, bot, if you will, to review those statements and to call out potential issues, circle back with the manager that was using the card and ask them more information about the use, and then basically adjudicate it and, either pay it or, refer it to someone else for review. Super easy AI instance. Another example is much more complicated, and that's like agentic AI, where we're developing we have developed with our partner with Cisco, agentic AI, meaning that when you call for a service appointment, an AI bot essentially answers the call. It learns all of the personal information from the customer through our enterprise data warehouse, and then also learns whatever that that instance is designed for. So let's say it's a specific manufacturer, and so then it can actually connect information from the manufacturer's data set to what the customer is asking, and then schedule an appointment in our rentals application and potentially reserve a loaner car. So, and it is different than an IVR because it's conversational. And it also can tell us at the end of the call information about that call, like the customer sentiment. Was the customer frustrated? Was the customer happy? Did they ask for information that we couldn't provide? So, it gives us intelligence that we didn't have before. And so as we're testing it, it's really interesting to see the conversation. So for example, I can call into this platform that's an in-house platform, agentic, what we call agentic AI, and it can act like an agent. So we can say, I want to bring in my car for an oil change. I haven't been there before, but my spouse has, and I want to do it next Friday around lunchtime, and I need a shuttle to take me about 5 miles away, and I'd like you to look at open recalls. There's a noise in the back of the back seat, and I need the regular oil change. Can you tell me what my car needs? It has X number of miles, or it can ask questions, and then it can circle back, answer the customer's questions, document it properly, and then schedule the appropriate amount of time for each one of these items, and then circle back and send a confirmation through, in our case, Rentals Focus application, which is our CRM. So it is, which is a rentals product. So we're able to use our own enterprise data warehouse, get all the data we want in the format we want, and then connect it back into both our DMS and our CRM to update it. Update it in real time, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with total availability. So that is kind of an example of AI. The difference in the past with an IVR was that it was very scripted and workflow driven. So it was very linear and absolute. In the case of AI, it learns. We can provide it new information, basically real time, and it has an infinite amount of knowledge. So you really can load it up with whatever it is that you want. You connect it to the manufacturer's information, and just provide an unlimited amount of information. And because it's a machine, of course, it can learn immediately and quickly and with ease. And then, then the conversation is with the customer in terms of what the customer wants. And it's really fun and interesting to be part of. So I think it's really exciting. I mean, we have an entire team that's dedicated to artificial intelligence, a small team, but and we've gone through each department and talked to the department leaders and asked them about, where do they see AI, in their area of responsibility. And then we've kind of created this master list of opportunities, and we're going, basically through prioritizing that list to figure out which of the AI installations will have the most return. So we're kind of in that process today.
So do most of those, when you think about that list and you think about that, it's probably a giant list at this point of, almost a wish list of, hey, what can we use this for? What percentage of the asks are operational, where I would say they're efficiency gains, right? And what percentage of those are more consumer facing? So, where do you see the heavier weight, or are they pretty much even?
Well, it's a really good question. So, we also are looking, like, we first look at build or buy. And so if there's an application that's already in the marketplace, like, for example, we want the first connection on an inbound lead to be, an AI response. And so Reynolds and Reynolds had a product called Engagement AI that we're installing. So that was already, available in the marketplace, and it was something that we could easily engage with. We could connect with it, and we could customize it in a way that worked for us. So in that case, we would buy. So we see, we look at this list, and we have, like, we prioritize it, and then we look to see, okay, do we try to build it ourselves, or do we buy it? So we tend to buy things that don't need a lot of customization, and we tend to build things that are really very specific to our business, that we think the amount of work to customize it to our business would just be, is not a good fit for a purchase kind of, off the shelf product. So, and then in terms of your question, in terms of operations, most of the customer facing applications we can buy, and we've bought, a few through Reynolds and Reynolds, like Curator, and Engagement AI, and some of the other functionality within Focus. But there are times when we want to operationalize things that are very, very unique to our business. And so in those cases, then we build it. So I would say that it's probably, I haven't really looked at kind of a spread on, what's more operational versus customer facing. In my mind, if you improve the back office, it usually improves the customer's experience somehow, some way, or the employee's experience, which then, by default improves the the customer's experience. So, I guess I don't know. I would say that if I had to guess, I would say that about 70% are operational, kind of enhancements or efficiencies, and 30% are customer facing.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, and I love, that makes sense. And I love what you said too about how even the things that are operational can impact the customer experience, right? Because I tell the story fairly frequently, but I mean, I grew up working retail, and it's really hard when you have one person on the phone, one person on hold, and somebody standing in front of you, and you're trying to make all three happy, and you just can't do it. And if you're stressed out as that person, trying to make everybody happy, those three all have a terrible experience. So if you can make that person's job, who's got two on the phone and one in front of them, easier, and have them feel better about what they're doing and more comfortable, then they're gonna in turn make it a better customer experience. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I love that mindset that you shared, where even if it is operational on some level, it's going to impact how the customer feels too.
I mean, absolutely. And so things that, when you improve what we call in this business kind of like the back office or the operations, it is felt by the customer, because some of those things take, the customer's time, right? I mean, when it takes a long time to prepare documentation, when it takes a long time to find something the customer wants, when it takes a long time to schedule an appointment, those things, they impact the customer's experience. And so for us, we're looking for ways to improve certainly our operational efficiencies, but we understand that spills over to our customer experience. The other thing is that employees tend to be much happier when things work well and when things work efficiently. And so for us, we're constantly looking for things that, help that efficiency from our employees' perspective. So, I think it's just powerful. AI just makes a lot of things a lot easier. So, and and some of the things that, I think people sometimes think, well, you're just using AI to replace people. And like we're working on AI to like take the frustration out of our people, right?
Yeah.
When they spend less time guessing and more time taking care of customers, or or even having access to information much more, much faster and much more efficient, it gives employees confidence, and and they know they're making the right decision, and they're able to help customers much quicker and more efficient, which kind of lends itself to our hospitality model, which is what we're trying to achieve in the car business. So, if you have all these disconnected systems and incomplete pictures, and and things that are, it makes you feel like you're operating in the dark. And so, when you add in like enterprise data warehouse or these unified data layers, or, you have, AI to assist, employees to find information faster and easier, and you do the same for customers, it just leads for an overall better employee experience and an overall better customer experience. And so, we want to take out like the frustrating things that our employees feel when they're in this business, and we want to instead give them the confidence to to make really smart decisions for for our customers. And then it enables to give it's more autonomy to the employees who interact with customers the most. They're able to make faster decisions and better decisions and help customers more more efficiently. And that's what we're aiming to achieve. So when we look at kind of not just the ROI, but also to your point, the customer impact of some of this work, and we think it's moving really fast. I mean, we think we'll implement several material AI functions into our business, which will change the way we do business. And I think that's really exciting. The other thing that we're doing is we're bringing our employees in. So like I said, we invite the department leaders to tell us like what areas will AI help them the most. And then we're also working with the people who do this work and asking, okay, what would help you the most? And what would you like to see, and how would you like our systems and processes to interact with the customers, and help them with some of our employees remove some of the frustrating repetitive work that gets in the way of them A, enjoying their job, or B, taking the best care they can of the customer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So there's a couple things you mentioned there that I want to pop the hood on a little bit, if you don't mind. And you talked briefly about hospitality, which I think is an important word. And I've heard you talk about, how you view your business as a hospitality business, right? And so kind of connecting that dot with this idea of employee autonomy. I think there's and maybe I'm wrong, but I think there's a through line there that probably ties together. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on that, and how hospitality and employee autonomy go hand in hand?
I think there's definitely a connection. I mean, just keep in mind, like, hospitality is a feeling, right? It's the feeling that someone has when they walk away from doing business with us or with you and say, wow, that was different. That felt different. I mean, it's transparency, it's respect, it's making someone feel just really well taken care of. And so, it's when part of that feeling is when someone feels taken care of, it's usually immediate, right? It's usually kind of on the spot. And so if it's not on the spot, it's not as hospitable, and it doesn't feel as genuine as if we try to do it later. So employee autonomy is really important, in my opinion, to creating a hospitable environment and also providing that level of service, what I would call hospitality level of service. So, I think that efficiency, the autonomy, when people feel empowered to make decisions, they typically make the right decision. And so, we need to, and typically that benefits our employees and our customers. So there is a direct connection, in my opinion, between autonomy and being able to provide a hospitable experience.
Yeah, that's great. So how do you define hospitality for your employees, right? So you have, I don't even know how many employees do you have across all your stores?
We have about 3,000 employees.
Okay, so 3,000 employees. How do you align them? How do you say, okay, this is what I mean when I say we want somebody to walk away feeling that they were taken care of, right? We want to be viewed as a hospitality business. Like, how do you align them? What's your North Star? How do you define it for them?
I mean, well, first of all, it's really hard. I mean, because it starts with recruitment. It starts with finding people who genuinely care about other people. And it's, those people who just wake up every day and want to make someone else's life better. And it's people who, and it's hard in a business where I like to say the car business is a bit of a contact sport. And so, it's hard when when customers or employees come in with this feeling that we have to negotiate against one another, or we have to do things that are, that are not always in alignment with one another. And so it's certainly breaking that down. It's teaching our teams the value of, being respectful, being transparent, just making someone feel good in that moment. And that starts with recruitment. And then there's also training. We certainly have our share of hospitality training. And then it's also, some layer of accountability. And that is looking to see, how customers report their interaction with us. Do they report it online? Do they report it through surveys? How does the customer get heard? And how do we circle back to make, have the employee understand when they're successful and when there's opportunities for improvement? So in our case, we have a hospitality report card, and it measures, our online reputation for that dealership. It measures CSI, SSI as an organization, as that dealership. And then in addition to that, every sales professional, every service advisor, and every technician gets a report card for themselves in terms of how they're performing in different hospitality metrics. So, and then we're also going to start using AI to look at different things around the customer sentiment. Like, how does the customer feel? How does the customer interacting with us? What are their comments? What are things that we know of when customers are, happy and pleased with the service they're receiving, or when they're not? What signs do we look for so we can provide some sort of service recovery? So that's, those are some of the things that we do to try to promote hospitality and hospitality type service within our organization. And then the other thing is that, from an infrastructure perspective, we do have what we call a shared service center, and that center or that team supports the individual dealerships. And we've tried to train them on how to be hospitable to and provide a hospitality level experience for our employees. So when we interact with our employees, centrally, we want to provide that kind of experience, that employee experience that we're expecting that they provide, our frontline employees provide to our customers. So, the framework is pretty much the same for everyone. We think that, it's an opportunity for us to differentiate ourselves and also just feel good about what we do. Because when you provide a really high level of service to someone, it just feels good. When you just take care of someone in a way that they're not expecting, it just feels good. And, there's some element of pride that goes into just taking care of someone, whether it's an employee or customer, in a really special and unique way. And you can see the response from them in terms of just providing something unexpected. So there's kind of a natural psychological reward for just doing a really just providing that level of hospitality experience to either employee or customer, in my opinion. So no,
I would agree. That's great. So Jeff, I am curious, how How did you really develop and shape this idea around hospitality? Because you haven't always done retail, right? I mean, you first kind of book or chapter, however you want to frame it, of your career was in telecom, right? Like you built and ran a pretty large telecommunications business, ultimately sold it and then moved into retail. Maybe we can get to that story in a minute, but maybe not having quote unquote grown up in retail, how did you really develop this mindset and this philosophy and then, frame it up and implement it across a 3,000 person team? Well, how did you get there?
Well, I'd like to say that I'm still implementing it. We are not, we have not mastered this. We certainly want to, and we certainly have the motivation and desire, but we have not mastered this yet. So it is definitely a work in progress. I like to compare our business sometimes to like the Las Vegas Strip in the sense that we have, there's, on the Las Vegas Strip, you might go to the Golden Nugget, or you might, visit the Wynn or Fountain Blue. And these are very, and you look at, you think about, what's your experience at Luxor, what's your experience at Excalibur, what's your experience at Golden Nugget, or, and just pick whatever brands you want versus what is your experience at the Wynn or Fountain Blue. And, they're distinct, right? It's not just the facility. It's also this layer of hospitality that exists in some of these, premier or premium businesses. And so, if you think about, what do you, if you wanted to own a casino and hotel on the Las Vegas Strip, which one do you want to own? Do you want to own Wynn? Do you want to own Fountain Blue? Do you want to, or would you prefer to own the Excalibur? And I'm not certainly trying to offend the owners of Excalibur, but I think most people would say that they would prefer to own a 5-star, 5-diamond premium business. And so, when you think about the car dealerships, and I think about what, my future looks like, I want to operate the Wynns, the Fountain Blues, the 5-star, 5-diamond businesses. And I prefer that over, the 2-3-star experiences. And so if I'm going to, dedicate nearly all of my time to work, whether it's no matter what the business is, whether it's real estate, automotive, telecom, whatever, I want to be on the 5-star, 5-diamond side of things. And that's where I find some of my motivation. The other thing is that nothing makes me personally, happier. And when I say personally, I should say professionally, happier than when you hear an employee tell you a story about your own business that's exceptional, either for them or for the customer. And so, I get a lot of reward and motivation from hearing those stories. And the better we are at our business, the better we are at making it creating a hospitality type business, the more of those stories exist. So that to me is motivating.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So I'm curious, and maybe you can tell the story of Mercedes-Benz of Wilsonville and kind of how things started. But I'm curious, with that being your first store, did Mercedes-Benz as a company, did that have an influence on how you approach, retail and the rest of your stores too?
Absolutely. I mean, Mercedes-Benz is, I started. I bought a dealership in a suburb of Portland, Oregon. The dealership was selling about 30 cars a month and was relatively unprofitable. The last month that I was the general manager, we sold a total of 440 cars, new and used, and was extraordinarily profitable. Not as profitable as the GM that took it over, I'd like to say, but from me. But I would also say he sells less cars. But no, I'm just teasing. But and so yes, absolutely. I mean, Mercedes made it easy to provide a hospitality level service. Mercedes cares. At the time, Steve Cannon was the CEO, and this was his mission. his mission was to provide this extraordinary customer service to Mercedes-Benz customers. And so that was easy for me to subscribe to. That was easy for me to believe in. And so, absolutely Mercedes provided that entree into this mindset. And then the Mercedes dealers overall are really talented, smart, dealers that care about the customer experience, care about the employee experience. So I also learned a lot from them. I mean, the Mercedes dealer network is really exceptional, and it's a small network. So you get to know, a lot of the people that run those dealerships, or the owners of the dealerships, and they're extraordinary. And so they provided, a terrific education for me. In fact, I mean, I had only been in business a few months, and one of the largest Mercedes dealers, one of the largest private dealers, a fellow named Michael Cantucci, who's based on the East Coast, offered for me to come out. I mean, a brand new dealer that I knew nothing about the business. And he said, come out, meet with me. I'll show you everything you need to know about being a Mercedes dealer. And he did. He gave me a playbook. He showed me exactly how he runs the business. He walked me through his financial statements. He provided, the way that they provide exceptional service to their customers, how they retain valuable employees like technicians. I mean, someone that I didn't even know, right? And so, I mean, that's the graciousness and class of the Mercedes dealer network. And so, you asked, did Mercedes have an influence as a franchise? Or yes. Certainly. And I started under just terrific leadership, Steve Cannon, and he taught us a lot and implemented a lot of very customer-friendly policies, which made it easy for us to provide great customer experience. And then you overlay the dealers, who also were extraordinarily generous about sharing their knowledge and also care about their employees and customers. And then and then the Mercedes-Benz customer, typically likes to and values a good customer experience. So, it was easy. I'm not saying it was easy to implement, but all of the stars aligned for us to, start, kind of this hospitality messaging and this belief as a brand new dealer. So I really had a perfect setup to start. And I'm enormously grateful to Mercedes-Benz, to certainly Michael Cantucci, who extended his just an extraordinarily warm welcome to the network and taught me a lot. And there were other dealers too, like Fletcher Jones, and they were Keith May, who runs Fletcher Jones. I mean, he was it was just an open book, and he showed me a lot of what they do to retain customers, retain employees, and walked me through their businesses and their business models. And just, extraordinarily generous people who, have a similar mindset. And so for me, it was like a MBA in the car business, learning from, professionals like them. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it, Jeff? I mean, it sounds like you were having fun for sure. So maybe that was it, and maybe just being around the people was it. But from what I understand, being one of the largest car dealers in the country wasn't what was necessarily in the plan for you, right? I mean, what I understand was you were in a real estate deal, you ended up with a car dealership, and then you had to learn how to run it. And you've obviously done a fantastic job doing that. But what was it that really made you fall in love with the car business? What about it is what's got you excited and want it to be such a big part of your life?
Well, this is certainly a large part of my life. I think I fell more in love with the people than I did the actual car business. Growth looks, relatively easy from the outside, but in the inside, it actually was quite a bit of work, and not all of it was glamorous, but it all carried a lot of responsibility. And so, it's a fair question. Yes, to answer your question, we did not set out to buy a certain number of dealerships or grow to a certain place. It just, at the time, when we were growing at kind of this breakneck speed, we just saw, excellent opportunity after excellent opportunity. And so we weren't out there just searching for deals. We just ended up on the West Coast with just some of these prized assets that were available at the time. And so we just felt like this was kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity to purchase them. So, I think our growth was a bit accidental, but it is something that that we really benefited from, because now we have the scale to do a lot of the things like we talked about earlier with AI and other technology and all this growth that comes, in terms of, growth for our employees. And so, that's really exciting when you see, you have a kind of a constant stream, because without growth, you really don't have that much opportunity for your people. So, to have this constant stream of growth opportunities for your, the people that have made our business so special also is motivating. So, and I also fell in love with like the potential of this business. There's very few industries where you can create something truly special through essentially effort, some discipline, and then just caring for customers and employees. And so to me, we get to be part of this moment in people's lives that is, to me, it's like a privilege. It's just, it's a really significant purchase for people. You get people coming in to buy cars, sell cars at different seasons of their lives.
Yeah.
To some, it's an aspirational purchase. They've had a successful moment. I was just dealing with someone on a real estate transaction, ironically. And so when it closed, instead of saying, I'm so excited about this, they were purchasing a building, but instead of saying, oh, I'm so excited about the future of the building, they said, oh, the first thing I'm going to do is buy a new car. And I said, well, I just felt like, what an interesting thing. They just bought a new building. Like, why are you thinking about the first thing out of your mouth is I want to buy a car. So we just get to be part of some, this really meaningful moment in people's lives. And then we get to affect, or we get to build careers, and we get to change, lives of our employees. And that also feels good when you're growing really fast. If I just had one dealership, and once you have a stable general manager, there's not a lot of upward mobility for people. So when you have growth, you're able to find, new opportunities for people as they develop. So it's a really special, place to be, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you able to sell that guy that car that he wanted?
Well, yes. I think he'll definitely buy from us, which is, it's great. But so I hope so. Yes. He hasn't bought it yet. It was very recent, but yeah, we'll when I get off this podcast, I'll give him a call.
There you go.
Yeah, thanks for the nudge.
So
we need a new sale this month. My gosh, this month is slow for new. So was last month. So, the market is a little, it is a little eerie. So, So we need as many new car sales as we can get. So I will give him a call.
Good. Well, if you don't mind, would you talk a little bit too about your growth? Because it really has been very quick. And that can be extremely intimidating for some people, to be able to just go and, you make pretty big bets and just say, yes, let's do it. How much of that was learning curve and experience? How much of that is just, you feeling like it's the right thing to do? How much of that is you do a bunch of research to make yourself confident in the decision? Like how do you do that? I guess, how do you scale as fast as you have? You've really, you can correct me on the numbers, but I think if I read right, it's basically from one store to 50 in 5 years. Essentially, give or take a couple, but like that's really, really quick.
Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think you're probably, directionally correct. I think that, for us, how you just, in a business, momentum is so important. And we just had momentum, and we still have momentum to some extent. But during that time period, there was just so much momentum, and we had such a great team that wanted this sort of growth and was hungry for this sort of growth. So we were very well positioned from a people perspective, but to grow, and we got a little ahead of ourselves, kind of a little over our skis at one point, and we had to pull back a little because we just we were tiring everybody out with these really challenging conversions. But I think that to answer your question about growth, I think we don't, in terms of our diligence, I mean, I would say, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to say this, but I think we're almost irresponsible with the amount of diligence we don't do. So we tend, and we learned out of the gate that we have like this investment filter that we like to put opportunities through. And one of them is just starting with, do you have an honest seller? Do you have someone on the other side of the transaction that you can trust? You can disagree with them, you can negotiate with them, but like, are they trustworthy? And I don't really want to buy a business today from someone who's not trustworthy. So to us, it's like, if you have a good counterparty and they are providing information that is, what I would call directionally correct, meaning that there isn't anything that is just obviously wrong or incorrect or misleading, then we pretty much trust it. And we don't over diligence. And the benefit and drawback to that is you can move faster. You can establish trust with your seller faster. You can, your employees are moving at a pace that everybody feels good about. But the drawback is a lot of people so when we make an offer, we've only had to make a change to the offer one time in those 54 franchises we've purchased. But a lot of people use diligence to renegotiate the deal. So if you go in as the high bidder and you're bidding against people who have a pattern of renegotiating or retrading, they're going to go in higher knowing that they're going to negotiate down in throughout the transaction. And the easiest and probably best way to do that is by really thorough diligence, testing the revenue, doing all of these things where you can find issues and then renegotiate on the purchase price. So we don't do that. So which is bad and good, right? Hopefully our lenders that are listening to this don't think we're totally irresponsible, but we tend to accept what the sellers give us if we trust them, and we tend to not retrade. And when you do that in a relatively small industry, in a relatively small area, sellers want to do business with you. And when you're an attractive buyer, you have really strong deal flow, meaning that people want to do business with you. I was recently part of a transaction where we were selling a dealership and the buyer just constantly wanted to retrade. They constantly wanted to change the deal. They constantly wanted to make adjustments. And in the end, I don't think the broker or any of the professional providers or the sellers would ever do business with them again. So those folks are going to have limited deal flow. So, when you're a really solid buyer, you show up, you do the things that you say you're going to do to the best of your ability, you establish a trusting relationship with the counterparty, and the transactions tend to go smooth for your employees, their employees, and them. And then in the future, they may want to do another transaction with you, or the brokers might want to encourage others to do transactions with you. And then your growth is enabled. Now you're ready to go. And I think that's something that is sometimes hard because sometimes you have to leave money on the table to establish yourself as someone who is a good buyer. And initially during that time, I think we were excellent buyers. And we were almost irresponsible with how little diligence we did. But the sellers got what they wanted. The sellers got the deal that we promised. And most, if not all of them, would do business with us again. And that's been helpful for us as we've moved forward and grown. As we've grown a little bit, we're a little more bureaucratic. We're a little slower. We're probably not as good at buyers as we were 5 years ago. But we still are reliable, trustworthy people. And that's why we continue to get really strong deal flow. We've gotten a little more, as, because it is hard work to do this. It's hard work to buy it. It's hard work to transition it. It's hard work to integrate it. And it's hard work to turn the businesses around if they're not as operating at the level that we expect. And I grossly underestimated how long it takes to turn around these dealerships. Some of them will take years to turn around. Others can turn around faster. It depends on the manufacturer. It depends on our staffing. It depends if we get it right the first time. It depends if we're the right fit. But, so from my perspective, our growth, that's kind of the short version of, how we grew. The other thing that we did is that in the beginning, we had stores that were, were performing at levels that were really extraordinary. So we stood out. So the manufacturers at the time started, asking us to look at potential deals. And, and we also received several open points that we've built out, and I guess we're still building out. So that was also really helpful to our growth. We had very good relationships, and we still do, but at the time, we were much more focused on, acquisition, and so were the manufacturers. And so there's a lot of buy sells at the time. And so it was a way for us to grow at a pace that was abnormal to the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. It's great.
Combined.
Yeah, it's a great reminder that it's never one thing, right? But it all comes back to hard work. It takes a lot of work, and you got to put the hours in. So, well, Jeff, I could talk to you, I think, for hours and hours and hours, but I want to be super respectful of your time. So maybe before we hop off, get your 2 cents on kind of what's next in auto retail. You're pretty decent at kind of skating to where the puck's going, and nobody's got a crystal ball, but next whatever time frame you think's appropriate, 2-5 years, like where are we heading? What's something that everybody should kind of have their eyes open to and look out for?
I mean, I wish I had a perfect answer to that. I mean, I think some things are changing and some things aren't. The things that are changing is technology. I mean, technology is going to make this business more efficient. It's going to make it more transparent, and it's going to make it better for customers and employees. That is coming. That will change, in my opinion, and I want to be part of it. It's an exciting change, but I think that change is coming. I think AI, digital tools are going to absolutely raise the standards, and I think that's a good thing. They're going to make us all better. So from my perspective, technology, AI, digital tools, those things are absolutely changing. But what won't change, in my opinion, is people. People will always matter. The customer experience will always matter. Trust, relationships, great experiences will always win. And that's the foundation, quite frankly, of this business. So I see technology changing. I see technology enabling better experiences for our employees and customers. I see the infusion of AI and digital tools changing a lot. But I think it's going to raise our performance. It's going to raise the expectations. And I think that's all a good thing. And I think that the foundation will not change. And that is how you make a customer feel, how you make an employee feel, the trust that you build with, and the relationships we build in this business with our customers, with our manufacturer partners, with our technology partners, with our employees. All of those things I think are still going to be at the core of this business. And the people who are most successful in this business, I think, are going to allow technology to assist in making the customer interaction the best. I'm almost ending the conversation with the start that you said is like, how much of this technology is customer facing and how much is operation? And I don't know the answer to that question, but what I do know is anything that we do to make the interaction with the customer better through technology, through training, through processes, will make us better as a dealer, as an industry. And I think those are things that those standards, those expectations, those interactions, are, it won't change. And then I think the change is like happening now. I don't even know that it's coming. I mean, I think that the real impact is going to come in the next few years, I think. But, I think most of us are leaning in and most of us think the future is bright. I mean, the oil prices, the tariffs, I mean, all this temporary craziness, I mean, may, cloud that view. But I think that, the foundation of the business is the same. And that is that people are going to always matter and they're always going to be the most important. And that technology should be positioned to enable those, our people to do the best for our customers, and for our partners. And I heard the saying the other day that I thought was really impactful to me. And it's not a direct connection to the car business, but the saying was that the most now I'm going to forget it now that I brought it up, but basically that the ultimate luxury is being free of worry. And I think that when customers come in to do business with us, we want them coming in with that mindset that we need to provide the ultimate experience for them. So they trust us, they want to do business with us, they talk to their friends and family about, their experiences, and they feel good, totally free of worry. And I think that's kind of where we're trying to head. I think as an industry, I think all the good dealers are thinking the same or similarly. So, part of that's technology, part of that is, just continuing to refine what hospitality means in the car business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, Jeff, thanks. That's a perfect place to land the plane. And I really appreciate you taking time with me. Jeff Swickard, dealer principal at Swickard Auto Group. Thanks so much. I'll let you get on with your day. You got to go get that car sold too.
Thank you. It's good talking to you.
All right, you too. What a way to spend our 200th episode. Thank you so much for joining, and a huge thank you to Jeff Swickard for talking with me. Jeff's a great operator, great partner of ours. I really appreciate him hopping on. I hope you got a lot out of that conversation. Before we hop off, don't forget you can watch or listen to all episodes of Connected on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. And make sure to hit subscribe so you're notified every other week when new episodes are released. Thanks so much. We'll see you in 2 weeks.